Welcome back to Mike's Miniatures, the place for all things mini wargaming. And in today's episode, we're going to do our favorite boys in blue. That's right, the Ultramarines. No, that can't be right. Ultramarines aren't part of the Last Wall or a successor of Dorn. Yeah, no, that's not them. That's more like it. So the Crimson Fists are the original Boys in Blue from Games Workshop back in, I believe, the first and second edition artworks. You would see that the Crimson Fists were the poster children of the Space Marines. But then sometime around back then, they suddenly switched to the Ultramarines. And now we just see everything Rabute Gilliman and the Ultramarines, and these guys have kind of faded off into the background, but these are the original Boys in Blue, the Crimson Fists. Some interesting facts about this chapter or legion. They were originally founded during the 31st millennium, which is right after the Horus Heresy in the lore of Warhammer. They are being successors of the Imperial Fist. Their Primarch is Rogel Dorn, and their current leader or chapter master, his name is Pedro Cantor, which is really fun when you pick up paints for this army right here. If you look up Cantor Blue, that's the dark blue you want for this army right here. So it's either Pedro Cantor is named after the paint or the paint is named after him. Either way, it makes it easy to remember who the chapter master is. It's Cantor. This chapter is now a fleet-based chapter in the current lore of Warhammer. They used to have the home world called Rin's World, which there is some audio books and stories from officially from Games Workshop Black Library. I believe it's called The Defense of Rin's World, where you can read about a last stand that this chapter was able to do, and I believe they were, like every other story, saved by the Ultramarines at the end. So they're still kicking around, but that just makes it to where with the new models refresh range that they have going on, you can totally now have all of your Marines be Primarch Marines, Primaris Marines, excuse me, and they would be able... It would make logical sense in the lore if you had a full army of just Primaris, because they are rebuilding the chapter. Obviously, their colors are typically the dark blue with crimson. Their chest aquillas are silver, and their eye lenses can either be red or yellow gold. And as you can see with this artwork right here, the fun thing, they are known for having power fists in the Legion in a lot of the artwork. It just makes sense calling Crimson Fist. They've got power fists as their primary aggressive weapon, especially on their leader units. And fun thing enough, as you notice probably in some of the artwork, all the sergeants and the folks who are in charge of different squads and things like that, they typically have two red fists, whereas the standard soldier will have one red fist on the left hand. And that's how they can distinguish rank between leaders versus general soldier, and amongst other things right there. So you could totally paint up your army that way with it. So speaking of starting an army, this is how I would start an Crimson Fist army, by first going and purchasing a lieutenant model, because the lieutenant is the only one that has the power fist option right away in the kit for you. And having a standard Space Marine unit could be the intercessors, or you could potentially do assault intercessors if you wanted more of a close combat kind of a vibe to it here. I just would start with intercessors because they're a general good all-around unit for shooting, and it makes sense for last stand, just standing, holding off your corner and blasting the enemy as they come closer to you. Along with that, having some durability with the new Terminator Squad box set. These guys could either have the big old flamethrower on the unit, or the Gatling gun, or the missile rocket pod on one unit. Every 5 gets one or the other. But starting off, let's just do one and probably get the missile or the Gatling gun. The flamer is not the number one best one, even though the box art has that one. And then you could totally get, for a centerpiece kind of model for your army, get a Redemptor Dreadnought. This one is definitely good for taking out the other tanks and things like that with its plasma cannon that it has for the one arm. And all in all, this amount of these four boxes will equal about 605 points for a standard small game, that you could totally take this to your local hobby store and just have a fun time with it here. MSRP from Games Workshop, it's around, as of time of recording here in June, it is around $243.50 is what Games Workshop would charge if you bought straight from them. But on Amazon, as I found it today, you could get all these four boxes for $206. That is not a bad cost for an entire small army of these guys right here. So I definitely would recommend that. An alternative route, if you didn't want to do these four boxes, it's a, I believe, yes, a little bit more expensive here. You could do a combat patrol box. In this case, we're going to do the Dark Angels combat patrol, which will have our 10 intercessors, our captain in Gravis armor, and three Blade Guard veterans there that are kind of like your elite units for the close combat to that have the enemy come at me, bro, kind of a deal. But your captain, being in Gravis armor, cannot lead any of those units that are in the box. So we're going to get him some units he can lead in aggressor squads right here. One box has three of them. You could do bolters or flamethrowers for the gauntlet guns. That's fine. And to keep the army more thematic, I would probably, if it was me, get like a Primaris Ancient. That's the banner bearer who gives buffs to your soldiers for plus, I believe it's like a +1 in their shooting or and things like that. And if there's morale rolls, if the unit starts getting wiped out, it gives them a plus or bonus so they don't, get pinned down or can't flee the field, kind of a deal. So that's pretty thematic with the Crimson Fist here. And then, of course, getting a Redemptor Dreadnought. Yeah, that's just a number one good defense guy. If you can get a Dreadnought, in my personal opinion, try to get a Dreadnought. It's really good. But these four boxes, this army would constitute 700 points, with the MSRP straight from Games Workshop being $349. But at the time of filming, Amazon, you could get all four of these for $277.79. But here's a fun little project thing that you could potentially do right here. That is Pedro Cantor. Ugh, I cannot speak today. So this was the old model that Games Workshop had for him. It is now discontinued. It was an old Marine. But now with the Primaris Marines, if you get the Stern Guard Veteran box, it will have the bits that you could totally take the backpack banner right there, and you could customize it and make your own captain unit if you wanted to and create Pedro Arcanto, or just get this box and you could borrow that bit or buy a bit off of somebody at your local hobby store or game store. This is where I would find it, is the Primaris Sternguard Veteran box. Take that banner, put it on your Gravis captain, and there's your Pedro Cantor right there. Pretty sweet and significant right there. The fun little project you could do to create your own Primarch unit again. And then right here, this is what you need to be able to paint the army. You need Cantor Blue and Abaddon Black for the dark undersuit, Lead Belcher for the silver bits, and for the red fist and anything that's red on the model, Mephiston Red is the way to go. Wraithbone, obviously, for our stuff right here, and Rhinoxide for the leather, and Agrax and Known Oil are good for shading. But that's basically what I would definitely do for painting up a Crimson Fist. As you can see with this model, that's what I've used to paint him up. When I did the Cantor Blue originally, he got really, really dark when I put on the Agrax Earthshade and the Known Oil. So you will definitely need to do another layer of the blue on top of it to help somewhat brighten it back up. But you don't want to be too bright on the blue, because then people think you're playing Ultramarines, and nobody wants to play Ultramarines, right? No offense to those of you who do enjoy the Ultramarines. They are a good chapter. It's just too poster boyish for me. But that is the Crimson Fist chapter, and it can go towards your Last Wall protocol if you wanted. Highly recommend just getting them. This would be a fun, unique chapter. Not very many people play them. You could run them as Imperial Fists if you wanted to, or just whatever you felt like, really, because they are kind of an obscure, soon to be deleted chapter, it feels like, by Games Workshop, not getting a whole lot of love anymore. So I just play it the way you want to and build that army the way you want to. I've been Mike, and this is Mike's Miniatures, and thank you again. Like, subscribe, share this video, and let's see what happens next week on Friday, which chapter we will go to next. But until then, bye-bye.